Okay, so today I am making Vietnamese style spring rolls, and to start I'm going to use chicken and I'm going to marinate this chicken. I'm going to do a quick marinade for it, and you can season your chicken how you like. You could also use shrimp and boiled pork, just shrimp, just pork, it's all up to you. So to start, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of grapeseed oil. Use the oil of your choice. If you want to do this marinade, by the way, you don't have to. I have 2 tablespoons of low sodium soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of Shaoxing cooking wine, a 1/2 teaspoon of 5 spice, and this is about 2 large cloves of garlic, a tablespoon of minced garlic. And I'm going to do maybe a little 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. You could also add fresh minced shallot, onion, spring onion, scallions. It all works. Now I'm just going to give this a really good mix. Now with clean hands, I'm going to add my chicken breast. And these are about a 1/2 inch thick. In some places, it might be a little over, but I like to do little cross-hatch scoring on the thickest part. And I'm just going to marinate this for at least 30 minutes. I have time today, so I'm going to go for about 1 hour to 2 hours. I'm just going to cover this and refrigerate it. Okay, so now I'm going to work on my peanut sauce dipping sauce. I'm going to turn on my small pan to a low heat. I'm going to work with like a medium low heat. I don't want to burn anything. So what I'm going to do is add a tablespoon of cooking oil. I'm going to add, this is about a heaping teaspoon of minced garlic. 1 clove of garlic works. So I'm going to saute my garlic just for a quick moment here. Now I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of chili paste. This is sambal, but you could use what you like as far as heat, or leave it out. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of hoisin sauce. By the way, you don't have to have this spicy or with heat, but I just think it balances the flavor in the sauce. I'm going to be quite honest, I don't really know an authentic Vietnamese peanut sauce for these spring rolls. I just sort of know that it's peanut butter and hoisin, and I kind of just use what I've got or what I like. Now I'm going to add, I'll start with a teaspoon of sugar. And like the sugar and things like that, you can adjust the ratios of the sauce to suit your preference. Now I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of peanut butter. I'm actually using sun butter because my son is allergic to nuts, but peanut butter, if you can have it, you'll want to use it. Now I'm just going to mix this, combine well. And if if you're doing this and it starts to bubble a little too rapidly here or simmer rapidly, just lower your heat source. You don't want this to burn. Okay, so everything is combined. I'm still working with a low heat. Now this is hot water. I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of hot water and work it in. And at this point, you will want to add just a tablespoon at a time of hot water until you reach the consistency you're looking for in your sauce. Okay, so here is my finished peanut sauce. I started with basically a 1/4 cup of hot water, and I just worked my way up to about a 1/2 cup of water. But like I stated earlier, the consistency of your peanut butter sauce or your dipping sauce is going to be to your preference. So, but a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup is a good place to start. Okay, so this is done. I'm going to shut off the heat. I'm going to place it in a bowl, and this is ready. And as it cools and sets, it becomes more flavorful. So this is a great sauce to make ahead of time. Here I have a tablespoon of roasted sunflower seeds. You can use roasted peanuts. Like I stated earlier, my son is allergic to nuts. So I'm just going to sort of crush them a bit, just like that. And I like to garnish with the crushed sunflower seeds and a little bit of green onion. We have a local restaurant in Houston that does that. They like to add crushed peanuts and garnish with fresh chopped scallion, and it's so good. There we go. Okay, moving on. Okay, so now it's time to cook the chicken. This has been marinating for 2 hours in my refrigerator, and I actually took it out 20 minutes ago to take the chill off of the chicken. It actually cooks a lot better when you do that. So my pan is preheating. Now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cooking oil. Now I'm going to add my chicken. I'm going to brown my chicken on each side for about 1 to 2 minutes. This chicken is a little bit thinner on some parts, so about 1 minute on each side on a medium-high heat. Depending on your heat source, it might need to be high, but you want to get a good sear and brown for a minute on each side. Okay, so that has cooked for 1 minute on the opposite side. I'm going to flip it one more time. Cover with the lid. I'm going to lower the heat all the way to low and let it cook on low, covered with the lid for about 2 minutes. So these chicken breasts are a little bit thinner than plumper chicken breasts. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the heat off at a minute cook time with the lid on. And now the heat is completely off. I'm going to let it set here with the lid on. Do not lift the lid for 10 minutes. If you're working with thicker pieces of chicken breast, probably like 10 to 12. And that's it. I'm just going to let that with residual heat and the lid cook itself. Then after the 10-minute mark, I'm going to let it rest for another 10 minutes. Okay, so my chicken has rested. I'm going to cut these into manageable thin slices. Okay, so I cut my chicken in little thin slices, just like this. These are just tender, juicy, and delicious. And you don't have to cook your chicken on the stovetop. Sometimes I put it in a 400-degree oven and bake for about 13 to 15 minutes, again, depending on how thick cut your chicken is, but whatever method you want to cook your protein works. Okay, so now for the rice vermicelli noodles. This is what I'm using. They're in little bundles. I'm going to use about 2 or 3 bundles today. And you just want to follow the package instructions for the cook time. And actually this one doesn't have it. But what I'm going to do is, my water's up to a boil. I'm going to add my bundles into the boiling water. Once it comes back up to a simmering boil, I'm going to let it cook for about 3 to 5 minutes, then shock it in cold water, give it a rinse, and those are ready for the rolls. Okay, so I think I'm going to do 2 bundles. That should be enough today, hopefully. And once they get soft enough, I'm actually going to cut them in half or by thirds to make them manageable for putting them in the rolls. Okay, so here are my noodles, and what I like to do is press out any excess moisture, just like that. You don't want really wet vermicelli noodles going into your spring roll, so you want to give it a firm press and make sure any excess liquid is coming out. And these are pretty much ready. Okay, so it's about that time. Actually, it is that time. Let's start making these rolls, but I want to go over what I'm using. So here I have a combination of butter lettuce leaves that I had a little bit left over, and some iceberg lettuce I just cut into little manageable pieces and leaves. Now for my other fresh ingredients, I have some chives that I had some from the store and I cut them in half. They were like really long, and I just cut them into these little pieces. I have some fresh basil that was overgrown in my garden. This is why it has some of these little burnt tinges to it. It's been really hot, but I needed to trim my basil plant today, so I'm using fresh basil. I have my fresh mint as well from my garden. I gave those a good rinse. And also when you're rinsing a lot of your fresh ingredients, I like to rinse in cold water, kind of let it dunk it in a bowl of cold water, rinse it, strain it, then put it in my salad spinner, and that gets off a lot of the excess moisture. It kind of helps when you're making the rolls. I also have fresh carrot, and what I did with the carrot, and I did it with the rest of the ingredients as well, I took a large carrot, cut it finger length, basically I cut it in half. Then I started to cut it into thin slices, and then the thin slices, I basically cut it into these little thin strips. And everything is sort of finger length, the size of the roll. You can definitely julienne your fresh ingredients. That also works. Here I have some cucumber, and what I did is took mini cucumbers. I cut off the ends, I sliced it lengthwise down the middle, and then just did thin slices. And here I have some pickled daikon radish, and that's actually optional. Carrot, cucumber, lettuce, and your herbs. Your fresh basil and mint works. I know a lot of people like to add cilantro. I actually used my bunch of cilantro in pico de gallo a couple of days ago, so I'm going to skip out on the cilantro today, but I will list in the description below a lot of fresh ingredients that you can use, the combination of fresh ingredients. It's really up to you. Here I have my prepped vermicelli noodles and my chicken that I cut into thin slices. So I'm ready to make these rolls. Okay, so before I forget, I will be using rice paper. And so over here, because I ran out of room on my counter, I have just a shallow flat dish or platter. I have warm water in here, and then you're just going to take your rice paper and dunk it into the warm, this is actually kind of cold at this point, so I'll dunk it in here. Okay, so this is completely submerged. You're going to take it out of your warm water and place it right onto the cutting board. So after you dunk it in your warm water, I'm going to add my noodles. I'll do cucumber. So I got my daikon radish, my cucumber, my better lettuce leaf, my basil, my mint, and my chicken right there. So now you take it and you roll the noodles and the lettuce, then it continues to roll with the cucumber and the carrot. I'm going to tuck it in at this point. Now the chicken, and then finish it with some chives. And you can have it, you can cut them shorter, but I want them to stick out. It does get a little easier with the process. And also when you're dunking the rice paper, it's going to feel like, oh, the rice paper isn't soft enough. Don't worry, because you want to make sure you transfer it from your plate to your cutting board while it's still a little stiff, because as it sits there, just like that, it'll get really soft and tender to work with. So if you're wondering why it still feels a little stiff when you take it out of the water, trust me, the water soaks into it and it turns into the soft rice paper. So I'm so excited. I'm going to continue this. I'm actually going to get my family to help me with these, and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so my family's like, we're ready to eat. So I'm going to just try one of the two that I've made and show you guys what it looks like. And here is that amazing dipping sauce, this peanut butter hoisin dipping sauce. It's so good, but here we go. I hope you give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.